solely written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Okay.
Mike's ready. He got his. Let him get back to his.
I'd like to start the planning session.
That's on.
Thank you. Madam President, Board of Directors, I just wanted to introduce Randy Bird. Randy is our IT manager. We hired Randy from Sun City West in September. Very lucky to have him. Randy was a director of IT at VeriSign, as well as an IT manager at Ben Broadband prior to Sun City. One of the major projects that I asked Randy to look into very soon after he joined the company was to conduct a very thorough inventory of all of the IT equipment that we had, not just in the server room at Lakeview, but across all of our facilities, as well as all of the desktop equipment that our RCSC staff are running. And so Randy's going to report on his findings from that study and some recommendations for going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we start, could we have the lights on the stage just dimmed a little bit? No?
He's working on it.
Okay. You could go ahead and start.
Okay. Madam Chairman, or President and Board. Yes, I've been here a little bit over 4 months now, and I came here from Sun City West. I live in Sun City West also. Get that out of the way. However, I'm going to bring up Sun City West a couple times in here, and the people that have heard my presentation, sorry, I'm going to be presenting it similar to the last time. Sun City West went through the process about 12, 15 years ago that we are now looking at going through the process. So like Kevin said, came in here with trying to have my eyes open, look at everything that's going on here, and I was a little bit naive when I took the job. Most companies that I've worked for, all the companies I've worked for, they had an infrastructure that there's always going to be areas that you need to work on. I just didn't realize that it was going to be everything. So let me get my pointer here, and it's all ready to go. There we go. Okay. So I started by looking at the documentation that we had within the IT department. There is none. Think about buying a new car and not getting a manual on how to use that new car. The documentation is critical to any business to be successful. You know, for IT, it's no different. We need to be able to go in there, find out why we purchased the equipment that we did, when we purchased the equipment we did, what the purpose of that equipment was, etc. There is nothing like that we can find so far. There's also when I go through these slides, you're going to see some of the things that we've pointed out. IT within RCSC needs to become a priority. Mm-hmm. It cannot be something that is left behind saying we'll catch up eventually. Technology doesn't work that way. And I'm going to say that right off the bat, I'm not an expert. I've been in IT for a few years, and no IT person can tell you that they're an expert. If they are, they're lying to you. IT is one of those fields that is exciting because it's constantly changing. We are very knowledgeable, but most of us are not experts in all aspects of IT. I have not met anybody that was. We have a lot of knowledge. So I went out and looked at the inventory. Inventory hadn't been done in years. And so that was a big eye-opener. So I first started looking at, doing a risk analysis and looking at opportunities for us to improve what we're hearing from the customers out there. And part of that was when I came on board, there was no ticketing system. So in the past, they had been putting it on an Excel spreadsheet. In the past, I understand that there was like 20 to 30 tickets per month as trouble tickets. Well, within the first week that I was here, we have a ticketing system. And we average about 200 tickets a month. That's not acceptable. And I've never worked in a place that had that many tickets in 1 month. So it's become a priority for us to work and try to figure out where the risks are. So here's the risk. There's actually 4 of them, 4 major risks. Within those areas, there's other risks, but I'm starting with IT 101. I don't even know if we're there yet. Okay. I think we're more on IT 100. So what we're doing is looking at every single risk that we have within our department, and there's quite a few of them. Let me start with the first one, the IT staff. Right now, it's myself and 1 other technician. We are supporting over 55 different software packages. We are supporting about 300 to 400 customers within RCSC that use computing equipment of some sort. And right now, Paul is my counterpart. We are averaging 55 hours a week in the office and 15 to 20 or more on weekends and evenings. That's just to keep up. We don't have time to do the detail work that we need to do to figure out what's happening in our network and what's going on with other areas within our environment. We are fighting fires constantly, and that's not IT. Okay, so right there, I'm going to throw up Sun City West again. Sun City West is half the size of Sun City. They have 5 IT staff members. They have an environment that's supportable, manageable, and is updated. And they've been constantly working on that for the last 15 years. They are open and have been telling me that they're here to help us in any kind of way that we can use them. They've been more than open on us. So with that, as part of my job and living in Phoenix now, my goal is to build relationships with vendors, partners out there that can help us make the right decisions going forward with what we're proposing. So after 4 months of being here and meeting with HP, Dell, and storage vendors and business vendors out there to support our IT environment, we've came up with a list of the areas that we feel that we need to concentrate on. And out of those 4 risks, we put IT staffing as number 1. The second one will be our server and storage environment. Our server and storage environment is made up of about 11 servers and 20 virtual environments. A virtual environment is a server that's been broken up into multiple chunks. Think of it as, you have one computer there, but now I'm going to give you this computer part to golf, this computer part to accounting, but it's all in one server. So virtualization has taken over the IT world, and I've been involved with it for around 20 years when it first kind of started out. So that's kind of our environment right now. We have 11 servers, 20 virtual environments. 95% of the storage and hardware is end of service life. There's the difference between end of life is when a manufacturer is no longer making that or providing it as an option to be purchased in any kind of way. End of service life means that you can no longer get security patches for it. There's no longer parts to replace, to fix things. And they're just basically telling you to move on to the next thing. Most of our server and storage environment was end of service life in 2016. 15% of it was end of service life in 2009. So right there's a problem, okay? We have to upgrade that environment. This is where all the software resides that run RCSC and the storage that is associated with the databases and everything that is handled by those. Next is our network environment. Our network environment is made up of 13 different types of network equipment, different brands. That in inherent becomes a nightmare to have to manage. Okay, with two of us as the people that are supposed to be taking care of everything, most of our equipment out there is non-managed devices, meaning that we have to actually go out and touch it. And the technology today is that you can make it all manageable from one location, which would help us in resolving issues faster. Plus, being able to find out why certain things are happening in the network or in our environment. Without that type of infrastructure, it makes it very difficult to manage. Critical data is stored on these servers and the storage environment, and this needs to be maintained. We cannot let it get as old as it is today, again. Okay, I'm going to jump to some examples of the 33 closets that have IT equipment or cabling in them. Here we go. What's wrong with this picture? Okay, there's a lot. The one thing that jumps out at me right at the first is it's messy. The other thing is there's no cable labeling anywhere that we can find. That means that troubleshooting has become an issue. We no longer have to, we can't just go in and fix something. We have to trace the wires out to figure out where it goes to. As you can see, this is kind of hard to do. Now, this is in some of the areas that are closed behind locked doors. We have a lot of areas that are open to the public. Go to Riverview Golf Course, the snack shop. If you're sitting there getting ready to order something from the snack shop, look to your left. It's right there on the wall. All of our equipment, right there in public. That's not acceptable. No. So we have a proposal to enclose all of it with metal cabinets. So everything that I'm going to be talking about that we can do is easily done. We don't have a huge environment here in RCSC. It is a big one, but it's not huge. And so I'm just going to be going over some of these environments. The next one, in risk 4, is the consumers, or I would say the employees' computing environment. The users' PCs there's about 70% of them that are over 6 years old, with the majority of them end of life and in service. By 2014, over 90% of our user environment will be end of life. We have multiple thin clients in our environment, which I'm not saying that those are bad things. What I'm saying is that they've added to the network traffic. And our network is at one of those points that I'm worried that if we add anything more to it, that it will drop.
Randy?
Yes.
You just said by 2014. I think you meant 2024.
Yeah, sorry, you got me.
That's for people that are going to watch the tape. I want to make sure they know.
No, you're right, 2024. So with that saying, we have about 65 thin clients out there. Thin client is a device that think of it as just a very basic PC. All the computing power and everything comes from a server that's located in a different location. Well, because of that, it's adding to the network traffic, going back and forth, gathering the information, processing it, and bring it back and forth. You know, the idea behind thin clients, and still is today, is that it makes things easier to manage. And that's true if you got a server environment that's up to date, working properly, and it's true if you have a network environment that's up to date and working properly. We believe that if we can improve those two areas, that maybe we can look at thin clients as an option in the future. We don't know, and not until we get those two areas that are critical fixed. The other thing that we have in our environment, and this surprised me a little bit too, was we have 85 printers. And most of the people here are tired of me talking about printers. They were 95% of them were end of life in 2019, or 2017. Sorry. What does that mean? Well, toner is now costing more than a printer. Mm-hmm. That should never get to that point, that we are spending money on toner cartridges that are more than the printer themselves. So my goal was, it's just one project that IT is working on, is to try to look at everything out there and see where we might have waste or where we can repurpose it to another location. And that's what we've been doing. We've removed, out of the 80-some printers, we've removed 21 of them. And they've been repurposed, and they're only being repurposed until we can get the money to replace. I don't know what's happened in the past, and I don't want to harp on that. However, nothing was brought up to my manager as far as needs for IT to replace anything in the budget for 2022. I don't know how that happened. So, okay, the next slide is, what are the business impacts of not doing this? We will continue to see, we cannot continue to Band-Aid the environment that we have. We have to standardize on the equipment that we're getting. I believe in one vendor for networking, one vendor if we can do it for computers, one vendor for PCs. It makes life much more manageable for the IT department. The IT department will actually have a life if we can get standardization. Right now, the challenges that we have is that things are deteriorating rapidly. We had on Saturday the 8th, we had one of our servers fail. This is a server that's supported by an outside vendor that takes care of this environment for us. They didn't call us to tell us that we had an outage. Paul and I find that out on ourselves. We lost a server with a power supply. We still cannot get a power supply for that printer, or that server, sorry, today. And this is September, or Saturday the 8th, when we had the outage. That's not acceptable. I've never worked any place where I couldn't get it the next day if it was an emergency. These equipment is too old, so we can't get parts readily available to us. The other thing that we're having issue with is I'm worried about keeping Paul. We are getting burned out just trying to maintain what we have with two people. You know, when I took this job, I knew that there was only two people. Bill will tell me that, I'm sure. What I didn't know is how bad the environment was and that it was not manageable. If we had everything in place, if this was a up and running great business, great server environment, storage, network, computer environment, we might be able to do it with 3 people. Can't do it with 2. That doesn't even compute with me. What if you wanted to take leave? Unfortunately, there's a death in one of our families. They're going to be gone. That means that IT is now down to 50%. Fighting the fires that take 2 people 60 more hours a week to take care of. That's an issue. Okay, enough about the problems. What are we going to gain for the members? I'm here for the members. I'm here for the RCSC. I'm here for the board. My goal is to make, the membership just be able to use their computers, stream if they want to, go to the golf course, do their banking if they wanted to do it on their cell phone. I wouldn't do that, but some people do. We have to think about the future of our members and what are they going to want in the future. I know the board would like to put in cameras at all the sites and stuff like that. Great idea. However, the vendor has stated that this is not a cloud-based option. It will be traveling on our network. Not today, it can't. So that's an issue. If you guys want something new to be brought into the IT department, it can't happen. I just don't see that it can happen without a big impact to the computer environment that we currently have. We've also taken some, working with Cox, who is our internet service provider, we have looked at increasing the speeds at all of our locations. Currently today, we have 10 megabytes and 2 megabytes up at all of our golf courses and snack shops. At our houses, we have a minimum of 120, for uploads and downloads on an intranet. So that was on the Wi-Fi. So that's the Wi-Fi that people are using when they go out there. Any rec centers bring up their devices. The intranet is 5 megabytes up and down. I'm not even sure how things are working right now because that's unheard of. The problem that we have is that within Cox's infrastructure in Sun Cities, it's older, right? So in order to upgrade that, we have to be looking at a different solution than what we have today. And Cox has a process or a new service out there called SD-WAN. The SD-WAN is a way of gaining speed without a high cost. Microsoft has it branded as Azure. There's a whole bunch of companies out there that are doing this right now. Amazon, they're all doing it right now because it's cost effective and we can gain speeds. If we stayed with Metro E, they can only go up to 20 megabytes with the current infrastructure that they have. We would have to go to fiber. Within Sun City West, or Sun City, we only have fiber between the warehouse, Lakeview, and the Lakeview lanes. I'm not aware of any other one. Chris could correct me if I'm wrong. So to put fiber into all of our locations is about $20,000 each, and it's not a feasible thing to do. So we've proposed an SD-WAN solution. With that, Cox will be providing firewalls and all that stuff, which we will get to, where we are going to have to replace anyway. So that's a cost that we were going to occur, but now we're looking at Cox to occur. So there's some of the background, some of the costs related. Security, we want to stay on the latest patches and to reduce the risk to RCSC. Right now, we can't do that. We want our members to come in and be able to use our Wi-Fi without it going down. Now, we can't control Cox, but we can control ourselves. And my goal is to have that not go down also. So let's see. So next slide. Okay. The challenge that we have at RCSC and the challenge that Sun City West has also is how do we get good people to come work for us? Well, we have to provide a competitive wage. And currently, I don't know that we're doing that. A network backup support technician on the low end, and this is including all benefits and everything, is about $80,000 a year. A server storage technician is about $70,000 a year. That's a lot of money, right? But that's a fraction of what you get paid in the outside world. And that's going to be a challenge for us to see if we can retain, if we can hire those type of people and keep them. I think that we can. I really believe that we can attract. We have retirees that work here that, like me, I was retired and I came back. My parents live in Sun City. My aunts and my uncles live in Sun City. And so I wanted to be able to, I came back out because I wanted, not that I needed to work, I don't need to, but I felt like I still had something to offer, and I wanted to better the environments that affect me or affect my family and the members. So here I am. And I feel good to be here, even with all the issues. What I'm going to be showing you is budgetary numbers. We're still finalizing what we're going to be doing. But as far as the proposal for the new server and storage environment, this is replacing apples with apples. We believe that we could improve on the costs, but right now, to replace apples and apples, we're looking at $205,000. The installation to help us do that was priced at $100,000. This is from the vendor that currently supports this environment today. I don't know why in the 7 years that we've been using them, they haven't recommended us to upgrade before now. They could have, but I don't see that. I don't see communications with this company being very good, and I want to fire them. But we're kind of stuck right now, right? So, until we get a server environment that is supportable and that we have the staffing to take care of it, it will be tough to do it without their help. Next is the network environment. My goal was to get to one manufacturer, one management tool, and this, after talking with multiple different companies out there that are smarter than myself, this is what we came up with to replace our total environment. $128,000 will replace all of our networking equipment that we have throughout RCSC. As you can see down there, there's some other costs, the annual network support, and the installation costs of $48,000. Mm-hmm. And you saw those 30-some closets. Mm-hmm. The cost to do that is $56,800. It's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Okay. Next is going to be our user environment. 23% of our tickets right now are printer issues. And that's mostly because they're end of life, service life. My goal was to reduce the number of printers so that we could get them back out to the people that have failed printers. That didn't work very well because they were dying faster than I could replace them. So we're to the point that we do have 2 printers right now that are on the edge of being needing to be replaced. Okay, that sounds easy, right? We're in COVID times, okay? I talked to my vendor yesterday and ordered a printer. It's going to take up to 90 to 120 days to get that printer because of the backlog of chips and everything that's coming from overseas. That's not just printers, that's everything. I ordered some terminals last year. They won't be here until November. That's the challenge that we have in IT, is trying to get stuff in to fix the things that are breaking. So right now, what we proposed was $219,000 to replace not all of our environment, but the ones that need to be replaced as soon as possible. We proposed to standardize on HP printers, standardize on Dell computers at this time, and the POSs are the stations that are out there at the FAs, the starters at the golf courses. Those need to be more robust because of the environments that they're in. However, it's looking like we're not even going to be able to get those in 2022. So we have to look at our terms there. So we have some challenges outside of money, just being able to get everything. So here's the cost by year that we're proposing is for 2022. We know that we can't replace everything now, okay, even though it needs to be. How do we do this? We determined that the server storage right behind IT staffing is the most important thing. So we have the budgetary numbers in there. The thing that we wanted to show was the total cost if we have to outsource the work. And that would be for 2022, $556,000. If we were to get the head count that I'm asking for, we can reduce some of that cost by being able to remove Nexus Tech, being able to save on the storage and server installation, the network installation, and the closet cleanups. We believe that we can save, over $100,000 just there. For 2023, this would, well, let me back up. 2022, we're going to be doing the network gear that is very critical, that is dying right now. 2023, we would finish the network project. We can't stop upgrading the computing environment for the users. We don't have a choice there. We are going to have to replace some of it. We're trying to avoid replacing a lot of it. So 2023 is when we finish up the network project. And also in 2023, we're putting more money towards the user environment. And by the end of 2024, we want to have all three environments up and as current as possible, so that it's supportable. So as you can see, it does come to a big total, where if we cannot get the head count, we're looking at $1.2 million. If we can get the head count, including the cost of that head count, it'll drop it down to $939,000. Still a lot of money, but it needs to be done because we're so far behind right now that, everybody wants something, and I don't like the idea of having to tell them no, but I'm trying to protect the rest of the environment. So that's my presentation. Here comes Bill.
Madam President, Board of Directors, again, great job to both Randy and Kevin. So before you fire questions, I just want to make sure that, I explain, I'm through you thinking, well, how the heck did we get here, right? So it's by no fault of prior management, prior staff, okay? There's no negligence or poor management. It really kind of started when we had the roof collapse, at Sundial. At that point, we were in a much worse financial position. There were a lot of headcount cuts back then. And so from that point till probably 3 or 4 years ago, we've always been in an MO of let's put Band-Aids on things. The expenses for members come first. And so, we're in that method of operation of put Band-Aids on, things were working. Right? As long as things are working, we might have a blip here, we might have a blip there. That's kind of what was driving, not being able to spend or not spending on it. But now the good news is that frugality has put us in a position right now where we've got some excess, okay, that we can utilize. And so that's the good news. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure, and we're not trying to lay blame on this. I think it's great now that we're in a good position. And so, the recommendation for this year would be for what the amount, I believe it's 500,000, I can't remember the number, would come out of the carry forward, and then we would budget for the rest going forward. So I just wanted to make sure that I clarified that. So thank you. So fire away.
Would be. Director Collins.
Yes. You said that you checked all our facilities, including the Grand Ave project,
The grant is new.
so that we're totally up to date, everything there?
Everything is up to date over there, except for we need to do the cabling, labeling of the cabling, so that it makes sense to us.
Okay, so I see you want a lot of this is equipment you want to buy, but what about the actual inside the buildings? A lot of our buildings are old. They're using the old AT&T wiring and all that. Are we going to be replacing that, or are we still going to be using those old components?
Well,
Mr. Byrd,
yeah.
before you comment to that, if I might, I want you to, you've been very tactful thus far, and I want you to continue to be tactful because we have cybersecurity issues. And I would be remiss as the chair of the Technology Committee if I did not say that the committee members want you to continue to be very cautious with the level of information that you provide, because we don't want our system placed at risk.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, sir, as you're aware, Sun City West, or Sun City, sorry, is old, right? Fairview was remodeled, and they have all the latest equipment in there. Fairway, sorry. It's still new. You got to give me some breaks.
Yep.
But, and I'm working with the building and infrastructure people to make sure that lakes maintenance goes in correctly. So we have the wiring in there. We're not looking at rewiring the current buildings. That's not on the scope right now.
Putting all this new equipment in there and using the old system, are we really gaining anything by using the old system with new equipment?
Well, yes. Okay. The cabling is a minor thing in the scheme of it. The equipment that's running through the cable is the priority. Like I said, we have fiber at Lakeview. That's where the majority of the work has been done as far as like accounting and HR. Then we have all the maintenance, the golf courses, snack shops, rec centers that all funnel into the computers that are located in Lakeview. So that infrastructure is Cox. Think of that as Cox. And within the building, it's Cat5 Ethernet cables that is okay to be running all this stuff on there. So yes, it's okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead, John.
Thank you. Thank you. Great report. Really appreciate it. One of my first questions of IT people is, can you do any of this with less equipment and less people? The plan you've laid out says, no, we can't, which I agree with. None of this surprises me. Seen enough of it to say, yeah, just like anything else, we have a tendency to add on and add on and add on. A couple other questions. With new equipment, what would be our lifespan on the new equipment?
Yeah, that's a good one. The industry says for network equipment, you're looking at about 6 to 8 years for network equipment. For servers and storage, it's also about 6 to 8 years. The PC environment is 3 to 5. That's how it usually works. Now, the one thing I have not said about is cloud computing. We already moved some of our stuff into the cloud. What does that mean? Well, what that means that we just don't have to have the computers for it to maintain it. It's out there, somebody else is taking care of it for us. That's okay for the softwares that we can do that with. The main software that we use here is not cloud-based yet. However, all the plans that we're making right now will allow RCSC to, in the future, move that way if they so choose, because now the network is up to date and can handle that extra traffic that goes like that for a cloud environment. So we are looking at that, and we're trying to make sure that we keep that. Our server environment is not big by any means. I mean, I came from one that we had thousands of servers throughout the country. You know, we have 20, 30 here. And so it's a small environment, but it's a critical one for RCSC.
I'd like to just make a comment or a few questions. You know, looking at all of this, you know, I get the impression that a major failure is not an if, it's just a matter of when. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. We've heard from the end users, the members, repeatedly. I mean, even as much as today, you know, wanting certain things done, the length of our meetings, we're trying to, I know you guys are sitting here and it's like, oh my God, you know, trying to get everybody to move a little faster, but we've heard consistently that they would like more internet capabilities in their clubs, even in social halls. We've tried to do things to improve that. But I think the members have recognized that. I just personally did not realize the depth of the hole we're kind of in right now, and not to say anything negative about the past, but
No.
I think we have we have to make something, we have to make changes now. We are aware that there's a problem, and it's time to address the problem, and I really appreciate you bringing all this information forward. It's not necessarily good news, though.
No, it's not, but it's not bad news. I mean, it's something that is, you know, $1 million is $1 million, right? In society today, you know, IT is expensive, right? In a world where IT is functioning correctly, you're going to all be wondering, why do we need them? You know, we don't have any problems.
Exactly.
You know, we are needed. We're behind the scenes. RCSC wouldn't even function if it doesn't have an IT infrastructure. That's why I believe that IT should be just as important as finance, golf, or any of those other ones.
Madam Chair? One other quick question. Since our lifespan on newly purchased equipment is 3 to 5 on computers, 5 to 8 on servers, would it make sense for us to budget through a sinking fund for those coverages instead of trying to adapt and jump at it and rob Peter to pay Paul to get the money?
Madam President, Director Nowakowski, could you clarify that? When you say sinking fund, what are you referring to?
We put money away every year for the next 5 years, so that after 2024, between 2024 and 2029, when we know we're going to have purchase new equipment, we have the cash on hand to do that instead of, again, trying to figure out where we get it.
So you're talking about reserve accounting, which we really don't do here, and we do set aside funds. We do have a capital reserve of about $5.5 million, and that's really for emergencies. But really, the carry forward has that's been our reserve for things like this that do come up. So that's what I'm suggesting, is that we utilize funding from the carry forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
Madam President?
Yes, go ahead.
Maybe I can ask the question in a slightly different way as to whether or not technology is important enough that it be added as a budget line item, since it's something that will always be, should be part of the process. I think that was part of the issue in the past.
Yes. Madam President, Director Fimmel, yes. So my suggestion, since we don't have it budgeted this year, so that's why we need to come and do this out of carry forward, but going forward, we absolutely would then budget this going forward for any of our further needs, especially what was presented here for 23 and 24.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Director Collins?
One question. If we came up with $2 million, would that $2 million upgrade our facilities enough to support the safety and securities that we wanted to do with cameras and everything else, or is it going to require even further?
Well, first of all, it's $1 million instead of $2 million. And based upon all the information we have today from the camera company that you guys have talked about, And what we're looking at as other services that we're going to need to be providing, the people that I've talked to have said that this will take care of that.
Thank you.
Madam President, may I also say that that is an important issue here. We will have a security contractor, but without these upgrades, we're not able to implement the process.
Same as videotaping the committee meetings. It's all hinges on our infrastructure. We don't have it. That's the problem.
Well, we did that for a year.
Yeah.
I just wanted to also mention, you talked about the FTEs, and IT people are hard to come by. So I really appreciate you being here and taking the time and effort to do this. But with what you and your second person is Paul is doing, I mean, you're already using equivalent of 3 FTEs. If you're putting in, so you're asking to hire 2 more and then take on all this additional work?
Yeah, I am.
Because we want to keep the people we have.
And I want to be kept also.
Okay.
So we got an understanding there, right? Yes, we have challenges, right?
Are you cutting it a little shy is, I guess, right to the point?
If you look at the numbers, we weren't taking out all the numbers for the installation costs. We still believe that we're going to need some of that. Even if I was to get the talented person tomorrow, they're going to have to get up to speed.
But even if you got the 2 additional FTEs that you're asking for, do you think that's going to be enough to do all of this?
Enough to get started.
Enough to get started, but
Kevin and I and others have sat down and talked about this. We believe that if we can get the right people, that we can handle those. We are going to still need some help, and that's why some of the money is still in there for the installation.
Okay.
Okay. We are trying to eliminate Nexus Tech. Okay. Oh, why are we not going out and trying to find another Nexus Tech? That is an option. In the past, I've done that 4 times at different companies that I've worked for. Every single time they failed. Look at Amazon. They just had a major outage. So it's still going to happen, right? Are we going to get out from underneath the cloud and all that stuff? No. That's where everything's moving to. So right now, today, we believe that with 4 people, we can support the environment that we have to the level that it needs to be.
Currently, not adding things.
That's right.
And, like I said, Sun City West has 5 people, okay?
Madam President.
Madam President, I've got a couple quick questions, or a few questions.
Sorry.
You mentioned we can't do it all at the moment. In other words, you have a 3-year plan. Why can't we make it a 1-year plan?
It all comes to money.
Okay.
And
so if
availability of equipment,
and ability of the equipment that we are challenged with.
Okay, so you said we can't. I'm not saying we should. I'm saying if this board said, okay, we have a massive problem and we want it solved basically yesterday, could it technically be done within a year, assuming the money was there?
I would have to say no.
Why?
The constraints on equipment getting in.
Talking about the supply chain?
If you said, Randy, here's $1 million, go buy your equipment. If I could get it tomorrow, I could say with a 95% accuracy that, well, this is January, yes, that we could do it by the end of the year. We're still going to need help, but we could do it.
Okay. Moving out the cost component, because I'm going to ask General Manager Cook about that in a second. Should we do it within a year? Not could we, should we? Or do you want to defer to the General Manager on that?
I personally, from the IT side, would say, yes, we have to. I mean, I'm not staying up here saying this is something nice to do. I wish I could be saying that. We have to do it.
Within a year? That's what I asked. My question was not 3.
Yeah, with the constraints that we have, I would say a year and a half would probably be a good thing.
Let me change my questions to General Manager Cook. Given our budget constraints, what would be, is there a reason why we should not just say get it done and get it done as quickly as possible?
Yes.
Okay.
Fiscal responsibility. I want to make sure with all of the unknowns with respect to inflation, with respect to employees and paying our employees. I know that some of our sister cities they pay more than we do, and their raise pool is bigger than ours. So there's other things that are in the budget that we need to make sure that we can accommodate. So I think, and to be quite honest, Kevin and Randy initially presented something less than this in year one, and I actually pushed back and said, let's pull some stuff up into year one. So I would prefer to be a little bit more conservative, get some equipment in here, and ensure that the decision that we made in terms of what solutions we're asking for fit our needs, and then fit within the environment that we have. And then if that continues, then we can budget for it going into next year as well. So that also helps that we can actually go ahead and budget that and look at it from an overall bigger picture.
Okay. Another general question in effect is, without looking at blame or anything like that or how we got here, are we going to have a system in place once this is bought? Are we going to have a system in place where every year everybody goes through, says this needs to be replaced, this needs to be replaced, this is adequate? In other words, a plan so this never happens again.
So I think and Randy can probably answer this better, but, we would have service level agreements in place. We would have, I think we would have better planning in terms of, and they would probably put together a long-range plan. And I would expect them to do that, especially if we increase our headcount, is to be able to put together an overall picture longer term, 3 to 5 years, and then we can budget for that.
Okay. And for Mr. Director Byrd, I have a question.
Can I just add something there?
Certainly.
Part of my responsibility is to draw a roadmap for the future. Every company I've worked for that I was in charge of the IT departments, they had a plan for the next 10 years. We have to have that. And the way, my budgets were huge where I've worked before. And you're just like my bosses. They kept me to the fire. And you have to plan this. As long as I'm here, this is not going to happen again as long as we get the budgeting to do this. I mean, I'm still amazed. And the other thing that, for Paul and I, we're finding things daily that we didn't know about. We're responsible for the telephones at George's. IT. Okay, and that's okay, but we didn't know it, until they have a failure. Okay, what's happened with them? One cell phone, a phone like we used to buy at Fred Meyer's or Walmart or whatever, was $50. They're $500 now because you can't get them. They're end of life. They don't have a new one out. So we're looking at alternatives.
Okay.
We have to, constantly.
Okay. So,
Okay, Madam President.
go ahead.
Thank you. Steve just made a comment about, Dale said that taping the committee meetings, we don't have the infrastructure for that. And Steve said, well, we did it for a year. But that year that we did it, 85% of our structures were shut down because it was during COVID. So it did not add an extra strain on the system. But now with everything up and running, 100% up and running, adding something else to the system could put a strain on it.
It is, and I understand what you're saying. Paul, who works with me, he said 2 years ago we didn't have problems. Well, 2 years older, my body doesn't work the same as it used to either.
Amen.
And these servers don't either. So That's just part of it. The other thing is that the companies I came from, they're continuing. Just like RCSC is going to continue after me. But they have documentation in place so that people can follow it when they pick it up from whoever leaves. That's a big deal. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. With the ticketing software that we have now, we're creating a knowledge base so that the users can fix the issues themselves if they can, and some of the issues can be fixed. Training, we have to be able to get out there and train the people too. We don't have time. And I see IT as trainers. We're also trainers. IT is involved in every aspect of businesses nowadays. And that's why I'm back. It's exciting. It can be exciting. With this new environment, I think you're going to see that, we can draw people if they're seeing that we're getting new equipment and they're going to learn something new. Paul is certainly excited. I know what IT can be. I've been there, and I know how we're going to need to get there. So this is the first step.
Secretary Owens?
My question mainly is more for the board. I mean, obviously this is crucial.
Yeah.
We have to make moves on this. I mean, there's no more sitting back and band-aiding things. We've got to do something. So where do we go from here? What do we need to do? How long? I mean, we bring this up on February 14th? Or do we have a special session and move ahead on this? I mean, we need to have something here so we know where we're going, what we're doing as a board. I know Kat with the Technology Committee will be working with them, and I'm sure there's going to be recommendations on staffing coming from your committee, as well as moving ahead on other things.
Yes.
What do we want to do here?
Yes. Well, my original plan, I guess, was to wait until the meeting of the 14th to make a motion, but if a motion can be made earlier at a special meeting, certainly the Technology Committee supports Mr. Byrd's recommendations. I want people to understand that this is just to get us up to where we need to be today.
Right.
This is not extraordinary. This is basic, fundamental information. I just wanted people to understand just how difficult the IT situation is in this community, because they've been asking the board. I responded to one member's inquiry, and it all has to do with the capacity of the system. The system, whether we place blame in any person or not, is not important. What's important is that this board now sees the importance of technology, sees its connection to security, sees that this is the way of the future, and puts the requisite resources where they need to be. And I think that Mr. Byrd has outlined a program that brings us up to speed for today, and then gives us an opportunity to look at staying up to speed into the future.
Madam President?
So I would look, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I would just say that I would move as quickly as we could to get things moving. When you're talking about being able to order things and having to wait months and months, the longer we sit on this, the longer it's going to take.
We will have to.
I don't think we can sit back.
And to that point, I do think that we probably need to have a motion on the agenda for the next meeting so we can move on it immediately. Yes, Secretary.
Mr. Byrd, I just have a couple other questions. And I'm not a technology person, so I read the paper and see information breaches and technology breaches in companies. But you're number one, are we threatened with equipment being sold that information can be easily hacked into? And if you don't feel comfortable in answering that publicly, that's fine. But the second one is, will we increase that in the first year?
I believe I can. Director Lineski, I can answer that. We don't carry any of the credit card information when we process credit cards, so we don't store that information, and we don't have Social Security numbers of our members. So there's no critical information other than maybe an address or names and things like that. So from that perspective, I think a breach is not as critical as somebody who's like Amazon who has that information.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Okay, yes, and for cybersecurity, I think this is going to be on YouTube, so we need to be very careful with what we say.
Okay, I'll withdraw the rest of the question.
Also, what we've recommended here is expandable. It's growable, so that we can set ourselves up to put things in place that people are going to want in the future. One thing that, we have at Sun City West is, and I'll pick on Brian a little bit, when I go golfing, if there's a frost delay, I get text. So I don't have to sit there at the golf course for 2 hours before my tee time. It's little things like those that our members are going to want, or I want, you want. It's those things that we just don't have the capabilities of today.
Oh, Karen?
Yeah, so I have I just sort of want to back up a little bit and maybe ask a somewhat higher order question. And I mean this in a non-antagonistic way, believe me. I'm really, I mean this quite earnestly. If all of a sudden we found out that in all of our pools there were carpets of algae growing, we would expect that the management take care of that issue, and I'm not sure exactly what the board's role in that process would be. So I'm looking at this and saying, okay, this is like a carpet of algae. We've just presented to us a disaster scenario, and I'm asking myself, what is the role of the board in this? So that would be one question. We're not the experts. We hear this, we're concerned, but I'm asking in a very realistic way, what is our role? And secondly, if either you or Mr. Cook or maybe both of you could tell us, what action would you like us to take?
Pardon me? What was the last part?
What action would you like us to take?
Director McCann, good question. We weren't very clear, but this is an out-of-budget item. To your example, if there is an algae issue, we have repair and maintenance, and we have funds budgeted for things like that. This is a large item that was unbudgeted, so we are asking that you approve an unbudgeted item of the $500,000 that was asked for, and that comes out of carry forward. That's what we're asking.
And apparently you don't feel like you have the authorization to make that kind of a determination on your own when you're looking at what funds are available to you. You would. So, I mean, it could be this, it could be that, all of a sudden all the grass on our golf courses is dying and you have to take action to that. I guess my question is, what do we as a board, we can say, sure, go ahead and spend the money, but we can't make the money appear out of nowhere either. That's going to devolve to you and a question of where does this money come from?
That's correct. We have a carry forward amount that has been increasing over the last 3 to 5 years.
Right.
And so we have funds available.
Well, right. And in the past, haven't you felt the freedom to apply carry forward funds to areas of need?
No, we have not. If it's not budgeted, we do not have the authority to spend that money.
Yeah, it has to be approved by the board if it's not budgeted.
Which I think is a good thing.
Checks and balances. Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Session is closed.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.